By the way,
Yeah.
if I can for 15 seconds say
Of
this.
course you can.
If I am a fan, and I think we're going to get to this potentially, if I am an Indiana basketball fan right now,
Oof.
and I watched what Purdue did, wait, it gets better. And I watched what Butler did. Butler won their MTE, like out of nowhere. They beat a good Mississippi State team. They beat them soundly. I was on the couch like, what am I watching right now? If I'm an Indiana fan and I'm watching those teams in my state do what they did with less money, I am pissed all the way off.
Yeah.
I am pissed all the way off. I am mad to no end right now.
There's one coach I've heard that just loves the Midwest, doesn't ever want to leave the Midwest, and they just won the Charleston Classic. If you don't do something, you're not going to get him because somebody's going to get him after this season.
It took me a second to figure out who you're talking about.
Very nice by you.
Yeah, I know. No, you said that he won the Charleston Classic. I was like, that was like 8 days ago. That's
Great
like
name.
that's 8 years in college basketball terms. Took me a while to connect those dots. Look,
getting that large.
Look, I will say this about Indiana, right? At some point,
dude, that was such a disappointing performance by them against Louisville. They just quit.
They did. Like at some point, we can sit here and we can rip Woodson and we could say that he plays too bigs and we could say this and we could say that. Like at some point, if you're a player on that team, like don't you have to have a little bit of pride?
Yes.
Like you're getting your ass kicked and you just roll over and die. Like they were down by 40 at one point in the second half. That should have been like a 38-point loss. And then I forget who it was. Some guy off the bench came in and hit 3 threes in like the last minute, 2 of them in the last like 8 seconds to make it only a 28-point loss. Like he probably saved them 10 spots in the net ranking, which came out today. They're still outside the top 70. Like that was, if I was an Indiana basketball player, I would have been humiliated with that effort. I don't know how do you walk back to the collective and ask for your check after that? Honestly.
And apparently the collective is elite. They have so much money. Yes, they have so much money. After I said what would I say last year that their NIL was bad? I was wrong. It didn't help them. Look, they look great. They look great when they're in layup lines.
It wasn't great. It got better. And I think it's like just a couple of guys that are out there funding everything for them. But it's, I don't know. Look, I have very real concerns about the way that like some of these contracts are signed and the way that some of these collectives operate and the fact that they're like they don't have the money that they're offering to pay. Like it's not all of them, but there's a bunch of situations where you sign these contracts and these collectives have to go raise the money, and if they don't raise enough money, then they just fold and say we don't exist anymore, and some guys get screwed out of paychecks that they were supposed to get. You can't sue the school because this stuff is not supposed to be associated with the school. Like it is what it is, right? But if I'm a collective, like, and I owe some of these guys like 2/3 of the money, and I just saw that performance in like what was supposed to be their biggest game of the year to date, why do I want to sign that check? Why do I want to give that money back away? Just fold and start a new collective, and they like, what are they going to do?
Can I play devil's advocate for a second?
Yes.
Whenever they played Louisville, and I can't remember what they did in the other games, but whenever they played Louisville, like it was the perfect. Like Louisville's going to space you out. They're not as big, but they're going to be able to hit shots at the 5 spot, and they're going to spread you out, and they're going to do everything with speed. Where Balo and Renew aren't those kind of guys. Like so, it was kind of the perfect thing. And then when it rained, it poured, and then everything snowballed, and it was just awful.
Okay, but can I play devil's advocate to your devil's advocate?
Absolutely, you can.
They gave up 57 points in the first half to Gonzaga.
Yeah, well.
And the only reason they were
also kind of the same idea, though.
Yeah, I look, I get it, man, but still, like at some point, it's like if you're not a top 15 team in the country, if you're giving up 57 points in the first half and you're down by 18 heading into halftime to a Gonzaga team that just lost to West Virginia, right?
But they smacked Providence.
Congrats, I guess. Fryer. We're
gonna go down that road right now.
Clip that.
We don't need to. There's a fun conversation that we could have there that I don't think that we should be having with the the live button right there in the corner of our screen.
Mm.
So listen,
Well, we're going to have a conversation very soon.
yeah, we're gonna have to. Let me just put a bow on it for Indiana.
We don't want to do that.
They haven't had a real coach since Bobby Knight. They haven't. Like, let's just call it what it is. You got to nail your hire. I mean, Tom Crean had a flash. No, Coach Crean had a couple of good years, and then it fizzled out. Kelvin Sampson obviously had a flash, and then that went sideways and bad. You got to know how to hire. You just do. And I think Mike, I went to a practice and watched them for a whole afternoon. He was in sync with the players. The players were in sync with him. But he's old school. And he I think it's hard for guys who have been around greatness, like Mike Woodson's been around championship level teams. It's hard for them to then be able to correspond to teams that aren't and get them there. And it's not a slight. It's just kind of reality with this. And I think that Mike, is a good man and an Indiana man. But those performances last week, he would tell you are unacceptable. He knows the standard. He's been around it forever. So they have to take a hard look in the mirror. Is the season dead? Are they dead? No.
It's not dead for anybody, man. Like,
nobody's, and that's just it. Like, that's a big take I have on this Monday morning. If you had a bad first month, it does not serve as an excuse for your year to be totally over. There are December, January, February, half of March. There are 3.5 months left for everybody in the country. Everybody in the country. So if you're going to say that your season's over, we're not going to give that take on our podcast. You might be hurt. You might be damaged. But you've got about 3 weeks in your non-conference to get to work. You still have at least one opportunity to move the needle. And then you've got your league. And here's the benefit to Indiana. In the Big Ten, 11 of the top 50 in the net, and I don't love talking about the net, but I will talk about it in this regard. 11 of the top 50 in the net come from the Big Ten Conference. Another 11 come from the SEC, meaning 22 of 50, almost half the teams are from 2 leagues. It's very indicative of the state of things right now. But Indiana, what's the point? You can right this ship, and you can beat these teams if you put your best foot forward. But certain guys got to wake up. Can't have people at the blackjack tables at 1 o'clock in the morning and play basketball and play hard. I mean, you're Indiana.
Was that happening, Fanta?
You're supposed to be, I know what my eyes see. It's time to perform. And this was a learning point for you to respond to.
Yeah, and I'll just say this to piggyback on your point. If you think that the season is over right now on December 2nd, like, can I just point you to NC State, who needed a prayer 3-pointer in the first round on the Tuesday of the ACC tournament last year, and then found themselves in the Final Four 4 weeks later? Like, you got to keep fighting, man. You got to keep playing. And to Indiana's credit, after they gave up 57 in the first half to Gonzaga and were down by 18 at halftime, they didn't roll over and die. They cut that lead to 16 by the end of the game. They fought to moral victories.
Yeah, big on moral victories, Dawson.
When we come back, we're going to talk about UConn needs some moral victories after not getting a single victory when they were in Maui. We're going to talk about the UConn Huskies in just a minute.